At his investor appreciation party, my son threw the music box into an ice bucket in front of hundreds of investors. This sentimental junk doesn't belong here. My 7-year-old granddaughter stood there, watching her grandmother's final gift, thrown away like trash. I said nothing, just walked over and picked up the music box. 3 days later, the watchmaker opened it. His face went pale. What my wife hid in that music box would destroy my son's empire. Hello, and welcome to today's story. If you appreciate the content we create, please show your love by hitting the like button, subscribing to our channel, and telling us where you're watching from in the comments section. Disclaimer: this story features fictionalized elements crafted to engage and educate. Any resemblance to real people or places is unintentional, but the powerful message about love, loss, and legacy is undeniably real. That sentimental junk doesn't belong here. My son's voice cut through the champagne-soaked laughter of 100 investors. I stood in the middle of his penthouse, all glass and steel and money, holding a music box, wrapped in paper that suddenly felt as worthless as Marcus clearly thought it was. I'm Robert Sullivan, 68 years old, retired engineer, widower, and at that moment, standing in my son's world of venture capital and 7-figure deals, I'd never felt more out of place. Marcus's Investor Appreciation Gala filled his South of Market penthouse, with Silicon Valley's finest, men in $1,000 suits, women in designer dresses. I wore my good navy jacket, the one Helen bought me for our 40th anniversary. It felt threadbare here. Dad. Marcus spotted me immediately. His smile didn't reach his eyes. What's that? Your mother's music box. For Emma. His jaw tightened. This really isn't the time. Grandpa. Emma's voice cut through the tension. My 7-year-old granddaughter, all dark curls, and Helen's green eyes, ran across the hardwood floor. Is that Grandma's music box? I knelt down, eye level with her. Your grandmother wanted you to have this, sweetheart. Can I open it, please? Vanessa appeared before I could answer. My daughter-in-law, 38-year-old, money-polished smile. Emma, darling, that's a very old toy. You have much nicer things. But Grandma said, your grandmother isn't here anymore. Vanessa's eyes met mine, cold. Robert, this is a business event. Perhaps another time. Marcus moved closer. I smelled whiskey on his breath. Dad, this isn't appropriate. Your mother wanted. Mom's gone. His voice had an edge now, sharp enough that nearby conversations paused. It's time to stop living in the past. Emma tugged his sleeve. But Daddy, Grandma said, it plays Claire de Lune. Marcus glanced at his watching guests. Something hardened in his face. He grabbed the music box from my hands. Sweet Marcus, this sentimental junk doesn't belong here. He walked to the bar and without hesitation dropped it straight into a bucket of melting ice and champagne bottles. The splash was small. The silence that followed was enormous. Emma made a sound like a wounded animal. Daddy, that's Grandma's. You'll get over it. Marcus turned back to his guests, CEO smile in place. Sorry about the interruption, folks. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. I didn't shout. Anger expressed loudly. Is anger wasted? Instead, I walked to the bar, reached into the ice water, cold enough to make my arthritis scream, and pulled out the music box. Water dripped onto my sleeve. I wiped it carefully with my handkerchief, the way Helen would have wanted. Then I looked at my son, 42 years old. I taught him to ride a bike, paid for his education. Somewhere along the way, I'd lost him. Your mother left Emma more than you know, son, I said quietly. You just threw away your daughter's inheritance. His eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? I didn't answer. I turned to Emma, crying into Vanessa's dress. Don't worry, sweetheart. Grandpa's keeping the music box safe, just like Grandma wanted. I walked out. The drive home, through San Francisco's fog, took 20 minutes. but felt like hours. The music box sat on the passenger seat, still damp with champagne and shame. My Richmond District apartment couldn't have been more different from Marcus's penthouse. No city views, no designer furniture, just 2 bedrooms, and a kitchen that hadn't been updated since the 90s. But it had been ours. I carried the box inside, past photographs I couldn't take down. Helen at our wedding. Helen holding baby Marcus. Helen and Emma, that last summer, before she got sick. I set it on our old kitchen table, the one we'd bought at a yard sale 40 years ago. I made tea, Earl Grey, the way Helen taught me. As the water boiled, a memory hit me, sharp and sudden. 2 years ago, Helen, in the hospice bed, we'd set up in our living room, her voice paper thin. "Robert, I want Emma to have this music box. Promise me you'll keep it safe. Marcus will want to give it to her." No. Her eyes were still sharp, despite everything. "You give it to her. If Marcus truly changes, he'll respect that. If he doesn't, you'll know what to do. This box holds more than music, my love. It holds our values. Emma will need them." She passed away 3 days later, 7:42 in the morning, with me holding her hand and Claire de Lune playing softly. The kettle whistled. I made my tea, but couldn't drink it. My hands were shaking. I opened the music box. When the first notes of Claire de Lune filled my kitchen, I finally let myself cry. Real tears. The kind that come from somewhere deep. My son had thrown his mother's love in the trash, in front of his daughter, in front of strangers. I wiped my eyes. The music wound down slowly. That's when I noticed it. The box felt heavier than I remembered. Not by much, but I'd held this box dozens of times over the years. The wood seemed thicker at the base, the proportions slightly off. Helen had been a seamstress, not an engineer. She wouldn't have noticed something like that, but she'd known craftsmen who could work with their hands, who understood the difference between what something appeared to be and what it actually was. My late wife had spent her final year planning something. Between doctor's appointments and treatments, she'd been meticulous. Her will, her wishes, her provisions for Emma. I turned the box over in my hands, examining it carefully. "Helen," I whispered, to the empty kitchen, to the photographs on the wall, to the memory of her. "What secrets did you hide inside?" The music box gave no answer. It just sat there, heavier than it should be, holding mysteries I couldn't yet name. But I would find out tomorrow. I'd take it to someone who understood these things, someone who could tell me if my suspicions were right. And if they were, if Helen had left something inside this box, besides music and memory, then Marcus had made a mistake tonight, a very expensive mistake. Sunday morning, fog wrapped North Beach in gray silence as I walked up the steep hill to Tommy Morrison's shop. The sign above the door, Morrison's timepieces and antiques, had faded to ghost letters, but I could have found this place blindfolded. Tommy and I had been friends for 30 years, ever since we'd met at an estate sale, hunting for different treasures. The bell jangled as I entered. Tommy looked up from his workbench, magnifying glasses perched on his forehead. He was 72, with hands steadier than mine had ever been, and a memory for mechanical movements that bordered on supernatural. "Robert," he set down his tools, "you look like you've seen a ghost." I placed Helen's music box on his workbench, between a Victorian clock and a collection of tiny screwdrivers. Marcus threw this in the trash last night at his investor party. Emma watched him do it. Tommy's jaw tightened. He'd met Marcus twice and had told me both times that my son had the soul of a collections agency. Coming from Tommy, who loved everyone, that was harsh. He pulled down his magnifying glasses and switched on his LED work light. "Let me take a look." For several minutes, Tommy examined the box in silence, turning it over, running his fingers along the edges, occasionally making small, thoughtful sounds. Finally, he reached for his precision tools. "This is Swiss," he said quietly. "1958, maybe 60. The movement is Peck, Philly. You can tell by the balance wheel design. These were handmade, each one unique. This thing is worth at least $5,000, just for the mechanism. $5,000. Marcus had thrown $5,000 into the trash, like garbage. But that's not what matters," Tommy continued, studying the base. "This base plate is too thick. Standard music boxes have a 1 millimeter base. This one is 3 millimeters. That's not an accident." He inserted a thin tool into what looked like a decorative groove. There was a soft click, and the base swung open like a trap door, revealing a hidden compartment lined with dark velvet. My heart stopped. Inside were 4 thick documents in clear plastic sleeves. Tommy carefully removed the first one and held it under the light. "Stock certificates," he breathed. "Original founding shares." I leaned closer, hands shaking. The certificate had ornate borders and raised seals, but it was the words that made my blood run cold. Apex Capital Inc.'s Certificate of Common Stock, 15% equity share. The date was March 15th, 2008. Helen's signature was at the bottom. Each certificate represented $50,000. 4 certificates, $200,000 total. Helen invested in Marcus's company. Tommy's voice was barely audible. "Did you know?" I shook my head, unable to speak. Helen had never mentioned this, not once in the 6 years before she'd passed away. Tommy was already on his phone, typing rapidly. Apex Capital Tech Ventures. He went quiet, his eyes scanning. Then his face went white. "Robert, sit down." "What?" Apex Capital was acquired by Tech Venture Group in 2016. His fingers flew across his calculator. The sale price was $180 million. 15% of that is. He stopped, double-checked his math. $27 million. The room tilted. I grabbed the workbench. "How much?" $27 million. Tommy looked up at me with something between horror and amazement. Helen invested her own money into Marcus's dream, and he just threw away the proof of Emma's inheritance. There was more in the compartment. Tommy pulled out a folded piece of yellowed paper. Helen's handwriting covered one side. "My dearest Emma, these shares are registered in trust for Emma Sullivan. They belong to you, sweetheart, not to your father. I invested in his company when he needed help most, using money I'd saved from 40 years of nursing. I didn't tell him because I wanted him to succeed on his own merit. If Marcus treasures this box, it means he's learned the value of family. If he's thrown it away, well, then he values money more than memory. And you'll need this inheritance to build a life he can't control. All my love, Grandma Helen." I read it 3 times, each word cutting deeper. Helen had known what Marcus was becoming. She'd protected Emma, even from beyond the grave, and she'd done it without saying a word to me. "Your wife," Tommy said softly, "was brilliant. Marcus has no idea." My voice sounded hollow. He threw away $27 million because he was embarrassed. He threw away his daughter's entire future because the box wasn't expensive enough for his penthouse. Tommy carefully placed everything back into the hidden compartment and closed it. The music box looked innocent again, just a beautiful antique with a secret that could destroy an empire. "What are you going to do?" he asked. I picked up the box, feeling the weight of Helen's love and planning in my hands. Marcus had made his choice when he'd thrown this into the trash. He'd chosen his image over his daughter, his greed over his mother's memory. "I'm going to protect Emma," I said. "I'm going to make sure she gets what Helen wanted her to have. And I'm going to make sure, Marcus understands, Exactly what he threw away. Tommy nodded slowly. You'll need a lawyer. A good one. I know. I tucked the music box under my arm and headed for the door. The fog outside had lifted slightly, letting pale sunlight break through. Truth. Breaking through lies. Robert. Tommy called after me. Men like Marcus don't give up $27 million without a fight. I'm counting on it, I said, and stepped out into the uncertain morning, carrying Helen's final gift and her final warning. Monday morning arrived with the kind of clarity that makes you wish you could stay in bed. The fog had burned off overnight, leaving San Francisco sharp-edged and unforgiving under a blue sky that felt too cheerful for what I was about to do. I stood outside Patricia Williams' office building in the financial district, clutching the music box like it might disappear if I loosened my grip. The elevator ride to the 14th floor gave me too much time to think. What if Patricia couldn't help? What if the stock certificates weren't valid? What if Marcus had already found some legal loophole to steal Emma's inheritance? The glass doors to Williams and Associates opened into a reception area that smelled like leather and expensive coffee. The receptionist directed me to Patricia's corner office, where floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the Bay Bridge that probably cost more in rent than I'd made in 5 years. Patricia Williams stood as I entered. She was in her early 50s, with silver-streaked hair, pulled back in a no-nonsense bun, and eyes that looked like they'd seen every dirty trick in the book. Tommy had recommended her 3 years ago when Helen's health had started declining. Best elder law attorney in the city, he'd said. Smart, tough, and she actually gives a damn. Robert. She shook my hand, with a grip that could crack walnuts. Tommy called yesterday and gave me the basics. Let's see what we're dealing with. I set the music box on her mahogany desk. She opened it carefully, listened to the first few notes of Claire de Lune, then triggered the hidden compartment with practiced ease. Tommy must have told her how it worked. Patricia spread the 4 stock certificates across her desk, like playing cards, then pulled a legal pad toward her and started writing notes in rapid shorthand. For 10 minutes, the only sounds were her pen scratching and the distant hum of traffic 14 floors below. Finally, she looked up. This is worse than I thought, and better. I'm not sure I like either of those options. The certificates are legitimate. Helen purchased 15% of Apex Capital in March of 2008, registered as in trust for Emma Sullivan. That means Emma is the legal beneficiary, not Marcus. She tapped one certificate with her pen. According to public records, Apex Capital was acquired by Tech Venture Group in October of 2016 for $180 million. Marcus signed the acquisition papers as majority shareholder and CEO, so Emma should have received $27 million. Yes. Patricia's expression hardened. But according to the acquisition filing I pulled this morning, Marcus declared himself, as owner of 100% of Apex's equity. He never disclosed Helen's 15% stake. That's not an oversight, Robert. That's embezzlement. He stole $27 million from his own daughter. The words hung in the air like smoke. Embezzlement. Stolen. My son was a thief. Can we prove it? My voice sounded hollow. These certificates are proof. They're dated, signed, and witnessed. Plus, Helen's will. She pulled a file from her desk drawer. I handled Helen's estate planning. Let me check something. She flipped through pages, her finger tracing lines of legal text. Then she stopped, and a slow smile crossed her face. It wasn't a pleasant smile. Section 7, Paragraph 3, the character clause. Helen wrote, if any heir demonstrates serious disrespect for family legacy or the memory of the deceased, the executive, that's you, Robert, may contest their inheritance rights and seek reallocation to protect minor beneficiaries. The music box, I breathed. He threw it away in front of 100 witnesses. Exactly. Helen was brilliant. She knew Marcus might turn out like this, so she built in a legal tripwire. You have grounds to challenge Marcus's actions, protect Emma's inheritance, and potentially recover the $27 million with interest and penalties. Patricia leaned back in her chair. This is a winnable case. Difficult, expensive, and messy, but winnable. For the first time in 2 days, I felt something like hope stirring in my chest. What do we do next? Patricia's expression shifted from satisfaction to concern. We need to be very, very careful. I did some additional research after Tommy's call. Marcus's company, his new venture, after the Apex sale, is in serious trouble. He owes creditors approximately $15 million. There are rumors of a securities investigation by the SEC. His business model looks suspiciously like a pyramid scheme dressed up in tech industry buzzwords. He's broke. Worse, he's desperate. And desperate men don't think clearly. She pulled out another document. If Marcus discovers these certificates exist, before we have everything in place, he'll fight back with everything he has. Men in his position often try to discredit opponents, tie up assets in litigation, or she hesitated. Or what? They go after competency. If Marcus can prove you're not mentally fit to serve as executive of Helen's estate, he can have you removed and potentially take control of Emma's trust himself. My blood ran cold. A conservatorship. It's called elder abuse when it's done for financial gain. But yes, Marcus could hire doctors to evaluate you, claim you're suffering from dementia or cognitive decline, and petition the court to place you under his legal guardianship. It's horrifyingly common in inheritance disputes, and it's very difficult to defend against once the process starts. I thought about the investor party, the way Marcus had looked at me with contempt when I'd retrieved the music box from the trash, the way Vanessa had smirked. They'd already decided I was a foolish old man living in the past. He'll come after me, I said quietly, the moment he realizes what you have. Yes. Patricia closed the file. Robert, I need you to understand what we're up against. Marcus will hire the best lawyers money can buy, or money can borrow, in his case. He'll attack your credibility, your mental state, your fitness as a grandfather. He'll make you look dangerous, or incompetent, or both, and he'll do it publicly, because that's how men like him operate. What do? We build an airtight case before he knows we're coming. We need documentation of his fraud, witness statements from the party, medical evaluations proving your competency, and evidence of Marcus's unfitness as a parent. She pulled out a business card and slid it across the desk. This is Daniel Foster. He's a private investigator, former FBI. If Marcus has skeletons, Daniel will find them. We'll need them. I took the card, my hands steadier than I expected. Marcus had thrown away more than a music box that night. He'd thrown away any remaining shred of my sympathy. Patricia, I said, when Marcus realizes those certificates exist and that I'm not backing down, what will he do? She met my eyes, and I saw the truth there before she spoke. Desperate men don't play by the rules, Robert. They play to win, no matter who gets hurt. And right now, you're standing between Marcus and $27 million he thinks belongs to him. I stood, tucking Daniel Foster's business card into my pocket. Outside the window, the Bay Bridge gleamed in the midday sun. Thousands of people crossing it without knowing their lives were about to intersect with mine in the ugliest way possible. Then we'd better move fast, I said. Tuesday afternoon, I sat across from Daniel Foster in a small office, that smelled like old coffee, and determination. The space was nothing fancy, just a desk, 2 chairs, and walls covered with framed commendations from his FBI days. Daniel himself looked like someone who'd spent 30 years learning how to read people and never forgot a single lesson. Mid-50s, graying hair, cut military short, and eyes that missed nothing. "I work fast when kids are involved," he said, sliding a thick manila folder across the desk. "What I found in 48 hours isn't pretty, Robert. Are you sure you want to see this?" I thought about Emma's face when Marcus had thrown the music box away. "Show me everything." Daniel opened the folder. The first document was a bank statement with a Cayman Islands header. "Your son has been moving money offshore for 6 months, $3 million, across 4 accounts, Cayman Islands, Singapore, and 1 in Zurich. The transfers started small to avoid triggering automatic reports, but they accelerated 3 weeks ago. $3 million. My throat tightened. He's planning to run, not planning, preparing. Daniel pulled out printed airline confirmations. Singapore Airlines departures scheduled for 2 weeks from yesterday. 3 one-way tickets. First class, Marcus Sullivan, Emma Sullivan, and Lily Harrison. Who's Lily Harrison? 28 years old, venture capital analyst at Pinnacle Ventures, the same firm, currently suing Marcus for fraud. She's his mistress. Daniel pulled out printed text messages. They met 8 months ago. The affair started shortly after. Look at this exchange from 2 weeks ago. The messages were coldly calculating. Marcus, tickets confirmed. Yumi E. New Life starts Friday. Lily, your wife Marcus, dead weight. Vanessa stays, divorce from abroad. Lily and the kid, Marcus. Emma has trust fund access at $27 million. Worth the inconvenience. I stared at the screen, nausea arising. He's taking Emma because of the money. He doesn't know about the stock certificates yet, but he knows Helen left something substantial. He's taking her to control her future inheritance. Daniel's jaw tightened. Lily has family connections in Singapore, speaks Mandarin, knows international finance law. She's useful. Vanessa isn't. Singapore has complicated extradition, I said quietly. Exactly. Once Marcus gets Emma out of the country, especially if he claims he's protecting her from an unstable grandfather, getting her back becomes exponentially harder. Daniel's expression darkened, which brings me to the next part. He pulled out a different folder. Inside were printed emails and school documents. Emma's school counselor, Mrs. Rodriguez, has been keeping notes for 2 years. With Patricia's legal justification, I obtained copies through child welfare protocols. I read the first entry, dated 18 months ago. Emma Sullivan, 7, exhibits persistent anxiety when discussing her father. She describes feeling like she can't do anything right and expresses fear of disappointing him. I recommend monitoring. Another entry from 6 months ago. Emma arrived upset. Her father criticized her straight A's because they weren't good enough for Stanford. She asked if there was extra credit to make him proud. Concerning pattern. A third entry from 3 months ago. Emma flinched during fire drill. When asked if loud noises scared her, she said, "Only when Daddy's voice gets loud." Requested parent conference. Father declined. Grandfather attended and expressed concern. I couldn't breathe. These notes read like a catalog of suffering I'd been too blind to see. Emma had been hurting for years, and I'd thought Marcus was just demanding. I'd called it tough love. There are 12 entries total, Daniel said quietly. Each documents escalating anxiety and fear. Marcus never attended conferences. You attended 4 this year. You were the only adult, besides Helen, who noticed Emma was struggling. Helen noticed, I whispered. She tried to tell me. There's more. Daniel pulled out a USB drive. The building, where Marcus lives, has security cameras. I accessed footage from the past month. This is difficult to watch, and he opened his laptop. The video showed the building's lobby 3 weeks ago. Emma and Marcus entered. Emma in her school uniform, carrying a heavy backpack. The audio was clear. I got an A- on my math test, Emma's small voice said. Marcus stopped walking. His expression hardened. An A-. Do you think that's acceptable? I'm sorry, Daddy. The teacher said. It was really good. I don't care what your teacher said. Your teacher isn't trying to build a legacy. His voice was cold, controlled, worse than yelling. You embarrass me, Emma. Every time you settle for good enough, you embarrass this family. Emma's shoulders hunched. I'm sorry. I'll do better. Sorry doesn't fix mediocrity. Go to your room. I don't want to look at you right now. The video continued. Emma walking to the elevator alone. Small figure hunched. She pressed the button and waited perfectly still, like any movement might make things worse. When the doors opened, she stepped inside and stood facing the corner, head down. Marcus pulled out his phone, expression shifting to pleasant charm, within seconds, laughing at something as if he hadn't just destroyed his daughter's spirit. Daniel stopped the video. My hands were shaking. That's emotional abuse, Daniel said gently. Clear pattern, documented evidence, multiple witnesses, and this. He pulled out another document. Email from Helen to Patricia, March 2022. Helen's email was short, but devastating. Patricia, I'm worried about my granddaughter. Marcus is too harsh. She's 7, and already terrified of failure. She flinches when he raises his voice. She cries herself to sleep after he criticizes her. I've tried talking to him. He says I'm being soft. I need to know Emma will be protected if something happens to me. Can we adjust the trust parameters? Patricia's response. Helen, I'll draft the character clause we discussed. If Marcus demonstrates serious disrespect for family legacy or harmful behavior, Robert can intervene. The trust will protect Emma's inheritance and give legal grounds to ensure her well-being. Come by next week to review and sign. I set the email down carefully. Helen knew. She knew what Marcus was doing, and she built a legal escape hatch. Your wife protected your granddaughter from her own father. The music box, the stock certificates, the character clause, everything designed to give you the tools to save Emma when the time came. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Helen hadn't hidden the certificates to test Marcus. She'd hidden them because she knew Marcus would steal Emma's inheritance abuse her emotionally and take her somewhere Robert couldn't follow. The music box was a message. Save her. I gave you everything you need. Every decision Helen made in those final months suddenly made sense. The meticulous planning, the careful legal language, the hidden compartment. Helen had been dying, but she'd used every moment to protect the granddaughter she wouldn't live to see grow up. What do we do? My voice cracked. We have 2 weeks before Marcus boards that plane. Patricia's filing emergency petitions, but we need. My phone rang. Marcus's name on the screen. Daniel's hand shot out. Don't answer. If he's calling out of the blue, he might know we're investigating. Anything you say can be used in court. The phone kept ringing. I thought about Emma in that elevator, shoulders hunched, facing the corner. I thought about Marcus, planning to take her to Singapore with a woman who saw her as an inconvenience. I thought about Helen, building this protection because she knew I'd need it. I picked up the phone. Hello, Marcus. Daniel's fingers flew across his keyboard. A red recording light appeared on screen. He gestured for me to put the phone on speaker. Marcus, I said steadily. Is everything all right? Everything would be fine if you hadn't humiliated me in front of 100 investors. His voice was cold controlled. Showing up with that ridiculous music box, making a scene. I'm calling to make something clear. Dad, don't contact Emma. Throw that music box away. It's over. I'm not throwing away your mother's gift to Emma. Of course not. Because you're living in the past, clinging to a woman who's been gone for 2 years. His voice shifted to false sympathy. You're 68 years old. Your judgment is slipping. Your behavior at the party wasn't normal. People noticed the conservatorship threat. Daniel's pen moved rapidly across his notepad. I'm not confused, Marcus. Really? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you need help. Professional supervision, a care facility where people can look after you properly. Vanessa and I have been discussing it. We're worried about you living alone. I kept my voice level, despite the white-hot rage. I don't need a nursing home. I have witnesses who will testify you're not capable of managing your own affairs. I have documentation. When the time comes, I'll take the legal steps necessary to ensure you're properly cared for. It's what Mom would have wanted. The mention of Helen shattered something inside me. Don't talk about what your mother would have wanted. I know she wouldn't want you confused and angry, clinging to the past. His voice hardened. This conversation is over. Lose the music box. Stay away from my family. Or I'll have doctors evaluate you, and we both know what they'll find. Marcus, you know what the worst part was. His voice dropped almost conversational. When Mom got sick, stage 3, the oncologist said there was a treatment option, experimental, expensive, 30% success rate. She begged me to help with the costs. Said she wanted to see Emma grow up. He laughed bitterly. No. 30%. $200,000 for a 30% chance. That's not an investment, Dad. That's throwing money away. I told her no. The world stopped. I watched her face when I explained it was a bad financial decision. She looked at me like I was a stranger, but I was right. She died anyway. The treatment would have been a waste. At least I saved $200,000. You killed her, I whispered. I made a rational decision, something you're clearly no longer capable of. Remember what I said, Dad. Stay away from my family. I know how to remove obstacles when they become problematic. The line went dead. Daniel reached across and gently took the phone. We got everything. The threats, the conservatorship language, the admission about Helen's treatment, and that last statement. That's strong evidence, Robert. He let her die to save money. I know. And now we have proof of his character. The next morning, I met Vanessa at a marina cafe. She arrived 15 minutes late, wearing designer sunglasses that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Robert. She removed her sunglasses, revealing calculating eyes. I was surprised by your call. Marcus doesn't like us meeting without him. I needed to speak with you about Emma. I'm concerned about the pressure Marcus puts on her. Emma is fine. She'll adjust. Vanessa sipped her latte. Is that really why you wanted to meet, to discuss Marcus's parenting? Her tone made it clear she didn't believe me. I wanted to understand your perspective on Helen's estate. Interest flashed in her eyes. Helen's estate. Marcus mentioned there might be assets we weren't aware of. A music box? He said something valuable. Possibly. How valuable? She leaned forward. Because Marcus's business is in serious trouble, Robert. Investors are circling lawsuits everywhere. We might lose everything. If Helen left something significant, I need to know. No mention of Emma, of just calculation about money. The estate is complicated. There are trust provisions for Emma. For Emma, right? Vanessa's expression hardened. Everything always has to be for Emma, the precious granddaughter. Meanwhile, Marcus and I are drowning in debt, and there's potentially millions in Helen's estate that could save us. The estate is Emma's inheritance. Emma is 7 years old. She doesn't need millions of dollars. We do right now. Her mask cracked. Marcus said, You have documents, certificates or something. We need those, Robert. If you care about your son, you'll help us access whatever Helen left behind. I stood leaving money on the table. I do care about my son. That's why I'm not helping him steal from his daughter. And I care about Emma enough to protect her from both of you. Understanding dawned, followed by anger. You're making a mistake. Marcus doesn't lose Robert. He'll destroy you in court. He'll put you in a nursing home and take everything. You're just a confused old man standing between us and the money we need to survive. Then we'll see what the courts think. Robert, her voice stopped me. Marcus told me about your call yesterday about removing obstacles. You should take that seriously. When Marcus feels cornered, he doesn't think clearly. And right now, he's very, very cornered. It wasn't quite a threat. It wasn't quite a warning. It was acknowledgement that Marcus's empire was cracking and desperate men were dangerous. I walked away, leaving Vanessa to her calculations. Now I knew for certain I was fighting both of them. Marcus, with his threats, Vanessa with her greed and willingness to sacrifice Emma for money. The empire was cracking, but wounded animals were the most dangerous kind. Thursday morning, someone knocked on my door with official authority. The process server handed me a manila envelope and disappeared. Inside was a thick stack of documents with a blue cover sheet. Petition for conservatorship of person and estate petitioner Marcus Sullivan, proposed conservatee Robert Sullivan. I sat at my kitchen table and forced myself to read. The petitioner requests the court appoint him as conservator for Robert Sullivan, aged 68, who is no longer capable of managing his own affairs due to progressive cognitive decline and impaired judgment. The petition cited evidence, psychiatric evaluation by Dr. Richard Morrison, documenting memory lapses and delusional behavior. Witness statements from the April 20th investor event describing confused and agitated conduct, financial mismanagement regarding obsessive fixation on worthless antiques, safety risks from inability to recognize appropriate social boundaries. Every word painted me as a confused old man. At the bottom, hearing scheduled for May 22nd, 30 days from today. I called Patricia immediately. 40 minutes later, I sat in her office while she read through the petition. Finally, she sat it down. This is aggressive. Marcus is going for full conservatorship, person and estate. If he wins, he controls everything. Where you live, what medical care you receive, who you can see, how you spend your money. Can he do this? If the court believes you're incompetent, yes. Conservatorships are weaponized in inheritance disputes. She pulled out a legal pad. Let's break down his strategy. Dr. Richard Morrison. I looked him up. He testifies in about 20 conservatorship cases, a year almost always for the petitioner. He finds exactly what he's hired to find. He evaluated me without my knowledge. He can base his opinion on observed behavior at the party and statements from Marcus. She made a note. We'll challenge his bias, but we need our own evaluation. I'm scheduling you with Dr. Sarah Bennett at UCSF. She's a neurologist, completely independent, respected by every judge in the county. What about the witness statements? People from the party who saw you retrieve the music box? Marcus will frame it as erratic behavior. Out of context, it might look concerning. Patricia's expression hardened. But Marcus assumes you'll be an easy target. He doesn't know we've been building a case against him for a week. What do we do? She wrote rapidly. 1 UCSF evaluation. Dr. Bennett will conduct full neurological and cognitive assessment. Will prove there's nothing wrong with your mind. 2, gather witnesses. Tommy Morrison, neighbors. Anyone who can testify to your competence and independence. 3, expose Dr. Morrison. I'll subpoena his financial records. If he's been paid unusually well by Marcus, or if there's a pattern of biased testimony, we can discredit him. 4, counterpetition. We're filing for emergency temporary guardianship of Emma. We have the abuse evidence security footage. School counselor notes Helen's email. If Marcus is unfit, it undermines his entire petition. Can we do all that in 30?